Marco Vitelli walked out of that building with nothing, no company, no accounts, no name left to threaten anyone with. The man who had spent 6 months dismantling lives from the inside, gone in 40 minutes. And the woman he had publicly called the janitor with a mop and a weight problem was the one who handed the papers to his board. This is where the story starts, not at the end, at the beginning, when nobody in that room knew what she was. Her name was Rosa Mancini. She was 34 years old, broad-shouldered and full-figured, with dark hair she kept pinned back and hands that never shook. She had worked in the Caruso building for 2 years as its head of facilities management, which meant she knew every maintenance contract, every service vendor, every square foot of that building's infrastructure. What it also meant, though nobody had bothered to ask, was that Rosa held a master's degree in forensic accounting from Northwestern and had spent 5 years before this job auditing financial crimes for a federal oversight firm. She had left that world deliberately. She was in this building deliberately. Nobody was supposed to know why. The man who owned the building was Dante Caruso, 41 years old, never photographed twice in the same place, the kind of quiet that in certain circles meant louder than shouting. He had inherited this building along with 3 others, 2 restaurants, a logistics company, and a set of obligations that Chicago's South Side still whispered about. He was not a good man in the conventional sense. He was, however, a precise one. He noticed things. He remembered what he noticed. And for 8 weeks before any of this happened, he had been noticing Rosa Mancini. Not the way men usually noticed women in his world. He had watched her reroute a plumbing crisis on the 4th floor, without calling a single contractor, by moving 2 maintenance schedules simultaneously and saving the building $40,000 in emergency fees. He had seen her at 11 at night, sitting in the basement with a spreadsheet open and a legal pad full of numbers beside her, cross-referencing something she had not been asked to cross-reference. He said nothing. He filed it. What he did not know, what nobody in that building knew, was that Rosa had been quietly building a case for 14 months. Marco Vitelli, who ran a property consulting firm out of the 6th floor, had been systematically skimming vendor contracts across 4 Caruso properties. Small amounts, irregular timing, designed to be invisible. He was good at it. He had been doing it for years under other landlords before finding Dante Caruso's portfolio. The total, when Rosa finished her count, was just under $3 million. She had not reported it, not yet, because she was waiting. The morning the lobby incident happened, Rosa had been in the building since 6. She was reviewing an HVAC estimate at the front desk near the elevator bank, when Marco Vitelli walked in with 2 of his associates. Men who laughed at the right moments and wore the right kind of watch. He stopped when he saw her. He had stopped before. It was a habit he had. "Still here?" he said. He did not lower his voice. "I keep thinking someone's going to notice we're paying cleaning staff to use the front entrance." One of his associates smiled. The other looked at the floor. The security guard at the far end suddenly found something important on his monitor. "I'm facilities," Rosa said. "I use all entrances." Marco tilted his head. "Right, facilities." He looked at the 2 men beside him. "Big job. Takes a lot of woman to push that cart." He was smiling when he said it, the kind of smile that performs for an audience. His associate laughed. Someone near the elevator door shifted uncomfortably. Rosa looked at him for a moment, not a long moment, long enough. "Have a good morning, Mr. Vitelli," she said, and returned to the estimate. He was still smiling when he got in the elevator. She did not watch it close. Dr. Linda Hartling's research at the Jean Baker Miller Training Institute has documented for years what public humiliation actually does to a person's nervous system. It is not simply embarrassment. It is a severing. The person targeted must choose in real time between collapsing into it or developing a shell that costs something to maintain. Rosa Mancini had made that choice years before Marco Vitelli ever said a word to her. The shell was already there. What he had done was tap on it without understanding what was inside. Dante Caruso had been crossing the lobby from the parking structure when it happened. He had heard it through the glass door before he pushed it open. By the time he was inside, Marco was already in the elevator. Rosa was already looking back at the page. He stood at the edge of the desk. "Ms. Mancini." She looked up. "Did you need something from Mr. Vitelli's office today?" "No," she said. "I have everything I need." He held her gaze for 3 seconds longer than necessary. Then he nodded once and continued to the elevator. He had made a decision. He just hadn't made it yet about what to do with it. That evening, she found an envelope on her desk. Inside was a key card and 4 words on a note card in handwriting she recognized because she had seen it on building correspondence for 2 years. "Come up when you're ready." She went at 7. His office was on the top floor and looked like a room that had been furnished by someone who read more than they decorated. Books on 3 walls. A desk that was wide and clear. He was standing at the window when she came in. "Sit down," he said. She sat. "How long have you been watching his accounts?" he asked. She did not pretend she didn't know what he was asking. 14 months. He turned from the window. "Why didn't you bring it to me?" "Because," she said, "I wasn't finished." "And because I needed to know whether you knew." The room held that sentence for a moment. "I didn't know," he said. "I know that now," she said. He pulled a chair out from the desk and sat across from her, not behind it. "How much?" 2,840,000 spread across vendor contracts on 4 properties over 3 years. I have every transaction, every shell company, every name he used to move it. It's documented to the standard required for a federal audit." She paused. "Or for whatever else you decide to do with it." He looked at her the way someone looks at a door they assumed was a wall. "You have a master's from Northwestern," he said. It wasn't a question. "Forensic accounting. You spent 5 years at the Federal Oversight Bureau before this. 4.5. And you came here to work in facilities management." "I came here," she said, "because this building had an anomaly in its vendor billing that showed up in a public property record, and I wanted to know if it was systemic or isolated. It was systemic. So I stayed." What she did not tell him yet, what she would tell him later, much later, on a different kind of evening, was that the original anomaly had led her to Vitelli's pattern across 6 different buildings and 3 different cities, and that she had come to the Caruso building specifically because the owner's reputation suggested someone who would want to know, not bury it. She had read him correctly. She had simply been waiting for him to read her. Nobody in that building, not Vitelli, not the associates, not the man who had laughed in the lobby, understood yet what they had just walked through. The board meeting was Rosa's idea. She proposed it 3 days later. Vitelli had called a meeting of building stakeholders to present an expansion plan for his 6th floor lease. He had done it before. It was how he positioned himself as indispensable. He walked into a room expecting a negotiation and walked out of it, usually, with more. Rosa walked in behind him with a folder, a laptop, and Dante Caruso beside her. She waited until Vitelli had finished his opening. She waited until he had laid out the numbers, until he had smiled at the room the same way he had smiled in the lobby, until he had looked at her once with the particular expression of a man who does not understand that the piece he dismissed is now in a different position on the board. Then she opened the laptop. "Before we discuss expansion," she said, "I'd like to address some irregularities in the existing contracts." She walked the room through it in 22 minutes, every number, every shell entity, every date. She did not raise her voice, she did not editorialize. She let the documentation speak at exactly the volume it required, which was considerable. Vitelli's face went through 4 distinct phases. The first was confusion because he could not locate the threat fast enough. The second was dismissal. She was facilities, she was confused, she was overstepping. The third was understanding, the moment the second page of the third document hit the screen and he recognized his own routing number attached to a company name he had not written down anywhere any reasonable person could find it. The fourth was the thing that happens when a man realizes the floor he has been standing on was not load-bearing. "This is," he started. "Documented," she said, "to federal standard. The original file has already been submitted to the appropriate oversight body. What you're seeing now is a copy for the building's records." Dante Caruso, who had not spoken, looked at Marco Vitelli with the particular attention of a man who has been very patient, and is now done. "Your lease," Dante said, "terminates as of today. Building security will assist you with your things." What Vitelli said after that was not worth recording. What mattered was what he did not say, which was anything that changed a single number on a single page. He left. The room was very quiet for a moment. Then one of the board members, an older man who had been in that building for 12 years, looked at Rosa and said simply, "Who are you?" She closed the laptop. "Facilities," she said. Dante Caruso did not smile in that room. He waited until they were alone in the hallway, and then it was brief and private, and entirely different from anything she had seen on his face before. "I have a proposition," he said. "I know," she said. "You haven't heard it yet. You're going to offer me something that looks like a job but is actually closer to a partnership." He studied her. "Is that a problem?" She considered it for a moment. The same way she had considered coming to this building in the first place. The same way she had considered every move in the 14 months before this one. John Gottman, across 4 decades of research on human connection, identified the moment two people stop managing each other and start actually seeing each other. It does not announce itself. It arrives between sentences in the half-second before someone decides to tell the truth instead of the easier version of it. "No," Rosa Mancini said, "it's not a problem." Vitelli was formally charged 11 weeks later. The amount recovered with penalties exceeded 4 million. His name was removed from every building he had touched. The associate who had laughed in the lobby left the city shortly after and did not return. Rosa Mancini's name appeared on a new company filing 6 months after that day in the hallway. Co-director of property operations across the Caruso portfolio. Her name appeared first on the document because Dante Caruso had insisted, and because alphabetically it came first, and because some things are both practical and true at the same time. The building on Michigan Avenue still has a facilities department. It runs better than any comparable building in the city. The person who built that system is not there anymore, because she has a different office now, on a different floor, with a window and a desk that is wide and clear. Some people earn a room, some people build one and then choose to stay. Power isn't always the loudest thing in a room. Sometimes it's the one that's been there the whole time, watching, waiting, and already 3 moves ahead. If this story reminded you that the most dangerous person is often the one nobody bothered to look at twice, leave a like. It keeps stories like this coming. And subscribe. Because next week's story begins the moment a bodyguard realizes the woman he's supposed to protect has been protecting him for months.